You're watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
Hello and welcome back, everyone, to the quarterfinals of the Eternal Tournament Series, Weekly 3 of Season 5. I am, of course, your host, Bairdrus, and I am once again joined by my wonderful co-host, Sir Rhino.
Yes, we finally made it after 7 not very long rounds, honestly. I think they were reasonably paced, but packed with action, and now we are here in the top 8. We have 8 people left vying for the title of being the first person to win the first Open of Omens of the Past. I think that'd be a pretty cool title to gain here. So let's go over our top 8 real quick. How about we do that, Bairdrus?
Yeah, we're going to touch the top 8 in just a second, but right before we do, we of course just want to go ahead and let you guys know that, of course, we're doing this all for the good of the players and the viewers. So if you guys are enjoying the content and you feel like contributing, please feel free to hit the Twitch follow button. You can cheer us on if you want. You can subscribe. We really do appreciate it. It does help quite a bit. If you feel like contributing any more to us, you can also check out our Patreon at patreon.com/RNGEternal. You can check us out there. It's RNG, specifically the letters RNG Eternal. And you can donate to us if you feel that the service we provide to you is good enough to warrant any of your money. If not, Twitch follows, of course, help. Subscriptions and cheers are always appreciated. We, of course, have our goals on Patreon. Right now, we have managed to hold and achieve the $200 goal, which means we have Sunday fun tournaments that also have a $100 cash prize pool. And we are currently working on our $250 Patreon goal, which is to expand the prize pools for our major tournaments, which includes our invitationals and the major events, so the midseason major and the annual championships. Most of, if not all of the money we get from the Patreon and our subscriptions goes back into the prize pool. So essentially, if you donate to us, you're helping us out, but you're also contributing to the tournament. You're contributing to the players themselves. So, we really do appreciate it. And, thank you all for all your support. And with that being said, let's hit that top 8 bracket, Rhino.
Yeah, as much as I love a good plug, I also love some Eternal. So in the top 8, we've got Bill Murray, who we just saw. He was rocking an Elysian mid-range deck featuring Constructed All-Star Terrietch Hatchling. We've got Tobu on Argentport. That's a mid-range aggro flavor, definitely trying to beat down. Notorious GHP is on Dark Combre. Marius with a spicy Fire Justice Primal control deck that we saw very early on, I think round 1 of this tournament, featuring Mola and Nikova and Ikaria, just big flyers everywhere with Aegis tacked on. KCN Abrav, I don't know any of these names, on Praxis midrange. Tatsumaki, who we just saw in the last round on Dark Combre. Pupicitus playing the classic Rakano Plate. And Ilya K sneaking into the top 8 as well. The only X and 2 on his Voda combo or big Combre list, depending on where we're at in the game or post-sideboard or pre-sideboard. So all in all, some good variety here. I don't think any deck quite broke the format just yet. No Skycrag aggro making the top 8. We'll have to check with the top 16 to see if they're lurking around.
Yeah, we certainly will, and it is a pretty stacked top 8. A few newcomers as well as some returning fan favorites and, of course, tournament winners. So it should be a very exciting top 8, and we are about to jump into our feature match, which is going to be, we've got Tatsumaki, who is on Dark Combre, coming up against Marius294, who is on that Fire Justice Primal control deck that's got the Ikaria and Mola and Nikova.
Yeah, so we just saw Tatsumaki get into the top 8 by taking out Ilya K in the last round. Of course, Ilya K still made it in with that Dark Combre list, the Timely Obelisk top deck for lethal backed up by Slay. So just a lot of mid-range good stuff getting mashed up against this Justice Primal Fire Control. Some people have called it Ikaria Blue in the past or something like that, but Ikaria is less of a focus here. It's certainly part of it. But also Mola and Nikova are showing up here on the top end. Some Dice Shows and Throne Wardens for Rise to the Challenge to just find the right flying or not flying threat. And Kothan down below with Trailblaze to give you some early game either scrying, drawing action, or just some nice units to just come up the ground that are still relevant in the late. So two kind of just good stuff piles, one a little more controlling the other, but there should be some fireworks flying here. Every single faction represented in this matchup, which is a fun thing.
Yeah, every single matchup, indeed. We do have, Tatsumaki on this Dark Homebrew list, which, as we touched on in the last round, is one of these Homebrew variants that has splashed in the shadow for just, a bunch of good cards, Slay, Banish, and Inquisitor Mokto. So we'll see which of them can manage to come out on top. This is going to be a bit of a more mid-rangey game here, so we're going to be slinging fat cards at each other.
Yeah. So the game is underway. Tatsumaki has a hand of a bunch of power and Martial Ironthorn and a Mythic Ascendant, so that's an okay place to be against a control deck, I suppose. Meanwhile, Marius has some removal spells for large units and a Molat and Nakova, so we're going to be playing the play power out of your hand game for a bit here, unless either player finds something to do sooner than that. So far, that is not the case, just more power for both players.
Yeah, we're just going back and forth here, so it's going to be a fast few turns, which is good. It's nice that our players aren't slowing down to take a lot of time to think about it. We're just accelerating through the slow turns, and we'll be hitting that 5 and 6 power range very quickly here.
Yeah, we're already at 5 power for both players. Tatsumaki opting to not play Martial Ironthorn and gets paid off by getting the Empower trigger here and getting the Hold Up Protect. So very nice. I don't know if he'll use the Protect on this Ironthorn. Protecting Ascendant's probably more important here. But we'll see as Marius tests the waters with this Vanquish and sees a pause. And Tatsumaki opts to use Protect to get that double trigger on Ascendant that'll be coming. Of course, the second Vanquish squashes that plan.
Yeah, second Vanquish taking care of that immediately. Tatsumaki picks up a Slay of his own to hopefully take care of Marius's threats as we get into that later game. Although Ikaria and Molat very notably have Aegis on them, so it's unlikely that a single Slay will be taking care of them, but it'll contribute to the overall game plan of taking care of one of them.
Yep, so Marius forced to use Harsh Rule there to deal with that Mystic Ascendant, and now, awkwardly, this Mystic Ascendant, it does die to Island's Choice, but Tatsumaki has to swing with it for that to happen first. And we'll see if Tatsumaki opts to do that. In the meantime, Marius is not going to slam down a Molat and Nakova playing the Pleated Power. I'm not sure if he had the influence without that. I'm quite paying attention. But Tatsumaki going to play the Seraph Lotto. Gets a Sandglass Sentinel. Normally a 3/6 Overwhelm for 7. That gets +3 attack whenever you cast a spell. Look at that limited knowledge play here. And Tatsumaki swings with the Mystic Ascendant. Island's Choice does its thing, but that's okay. Tatsumaki has plenty of gas via this Seraph and the Seraph in hand and this Sandglass Sentinel. So here we go. Molat and Nakova's got some work cut out.
Molat and Nakova certainly does. And the Cobra Healer picked up by Tatsumaki. That's a huge pickup here. He's going to be able to knock the Aegis off of Marius's Molat and Nakova, and that's going to clear the way for Slay to take care of this. And all of a sudden, Tatsumaki is going to be punching through for a ton of
9/12 Sandglass Sentinel on top of it all. Oh, the rubbins. So Marius needs to draw Harsh Rule, basically. There's not much else that gets you out of this spot. And Seed of Glory is not Harsh Rule. So we're going to get the scoop phase there and go to sideboards.
We actually are going to go to game 2 since for our new viewers and new players, this is a top 8. So these are all best of 5 matches, which means we do not sideboard until after game 2. So the first 2 games are going to be pre-board. So we're going to jump straight back into the action as our players re-challenge each other. And we're going straight back into another one of those very exciting matches.
Back into the action indeed. No time for sideboarding. We'll wait on that speculation. We'll see if Marius can get a little more than just the 3 or 4 spells he got to cast last turn. And it looks like his starting hand guarantees that. It's got some nice stuff to do early, nice stuff to do middle, nice stuff to do late. Same with Tatsumaki. Wow.
Yeah, these are going to be much more aggressive hands out of both of our players. Even if they aren't punching through for a ton of damage, they're at least going to be able to set their boards up early. And we're not going to be sitting around until 6 power to see some interaction. Kothon even is going to be able to punch through for a few damage here. And we'll see what Marius elects to go with next. I have to imagine it's an Island's favor, but no, he's going straight aggressive, dropping the Valkyrie Enforcer already. He's looking to go in here.
Yeah, Marius taking the aggressive line, potentially not being able to cast his hammer here, and yeah, it doesn't get to, so his Kothon will cease its beatdowns for now, but the air assault will continue. Tatsumaki does not have Harsh Rule in the main deck, so Marius not too concerned about overextending onto a board, except in light of his own Harsh Rule, which he doesn't have any in hand.
Yeah, and this is a tough turn for Tatsumaki to navigate here. He has 2 Slays, and he's got another Seraph to play, as well as some Find the Ways to dig him extra power. And I feel like he needs to be on maybe a Slay here, but he does have a few turns to wait. Instead, he's going to go with the Owl to stop the Valkyrie Enforcer for the time being. This will get punished by the Auric Runehammer, however.
Yep, Auric Runehammer finds its kill target. It's pretty safely protected here unless Tatsumaki decides to use one of these Slays, and yep, he does that. Doesn't want his Seraph to die to a hammer, so might as well slam it here. And then Marius has to decide whether he wants to lose a hammer or lose a Kothon, and opts to lose the hammer.
Yeah, and I definitely think that's the right play there. I think Kothon represents such a powerful threat that he can't afford to get rid of it right now, because if Marius had picked up an undepleted power right there, would have been able to ultimate Kothon and start punching through for 9 in the air.
Yep. Instead, he finds a depleted power, opts to get Ikaria when he doesn't even have the 7th power or a triple justice source. That's a risky move. We'll see if it ends up paying off for Marius here.
Yeah, he is all in on this game plan.
Yeah. In the meantime, if he can't cast Ikaria next turn, he can still ultimate his Kothon, so it's, a good backup plan, unless Tatsumaki opts to slay Kothon here, but then that's one less thing that can deal with the Seraph.
Yeah, we'll see if he chooses the Slay right here. He kind of has to, given that Marius has 6 power. Like, you have to respect the ultimate out of Kothon, given what Tatsumaki's holding here. I think this attack from Seraph telegraphs that the Slay is coming down, but no, in fact, he's going to drop another one.
Nope. Okay. Holds the Slay. Does not care about this ultimate from Kothon.
Marius finds any undepleted power here, that's just game. And in fact, he doesn't even need to find one. He's just going to catch the torch at end of turn, and this is going to be 9 on board right here. So Marius is going to very quickly tie it up. Oh no, the Owl can't attack right away.
The Owl cannot attack. If he had played Dice Show, he would have had lethal. He would have killed the Seraph. Oh no, there's 2 Seraphs in play. Never mind. Right, the other one was exhausted. It was still in play.
Not a horrible line of play, though, actually, to take care of both the Seraphs right there. I mean, Tatsumaki clearly doesn't have any big threats.
But he still has lethal in the sky. This line against a deck with no harsh rules is still very good. Get the guaranteed value out of Kothon instead. And yeah, Tatsumaki gets killed in the skies. Maybe he forgot about the Kothon ultimate. I'm not sure that what he was saving that Slay for, but got hit real hard in the.
Yeah, so me jumping the gun a little bit there, but in the end, Marius is able to bring it back to a 1-2-1 tie. And now we are going to hit the sideboards for both of these players. So let's go ahead and, since Marius got that game, let's go ahead and take a look at Tatsumaki's.
All right, so Tatsumaki is on Dark Cambrai with the harsh rules in the side. Maybe, I really doubt they come in here. It doesn't seem very useful. The stand-togethers are a way to protect your board if you build it up, so I expect those to come in. It's also nice that Stand Together is a multi-faction spell. It means things like Caleb's Choice can't counter it, and your opponent doesn't have a backlash. So yeah, the Stand Together seems very nice. Decay could come in as a way to deal with some of these weapons, but your opponent doesn't have that many. It's just a couple sort of Ikarias, Auric Runehammers, Starshield Dice Shows. Like, there's 5 total, although they do get to look them up. So you may bring that in. Banish doesn't hit all the weapons, it just hits most of them. It doesn't hit Dice Show, notably. So maybe you want Decay as an occasional upgrade to Banish, but not always an upgrade to Banish kind of thing. Banish, although right now really isn't hitting that much, can hit Kothon a couple units. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe you bring in the Decays, but the big thing is Stand Together out of Tatsumaki.
Yeah, and realistically, probably Xenon Obelisk, right? Like, it's just a solid card in this matchup. This matchup's about big units, so
yeah.
I feel like you could definitely make 2 cuts somewhere for some obelisks.
Yeah, some amount of removal will probably just get cut for obelisk and Stand Together, and your game plan as Tatsumaki will be just present good threats and protect them and make them big. I think you're going to try and control the board by being on the board. And Marius will try to control the board via still having removal spells and other things like some interesting cards to bring in if you are Marius. There's a couple Vanquish I would imagine come in. Maybe Permafrost is a way to deal with Nocto, even though it interacts awkwardly with your weapons and Harsh Rule. I don't know. It's a little sketchy. Leave a Witness as extra Harsh Rules if you want those, and they work very well with Moat and Nikova and Ikaria. But we'll just have to see here as the Game 3 is underway.
Yeah, let's take a look. Marius starting off with a very defensive hand here. He does have the Kothon to stave off any early aggression, although looking at Tatsumaki's hand, well, he picks up the Seraph now, but before that, his hand was basically empty of threats until turn 6 or 7 for the Mystic Ascendant.
Yeah, but Tatsumaki does pick up the Seraph there, so can get a little bit more early pressure. Again, Marius on the play with that Kothon, going to get in a little chip damage now and still be a must-answer threat later. Just really showing off Kothon's abilities here. But still, a Seraph into an Obelisk is a nice curve for Tatsumaki. Of course, is going to put that Seraph in Vanquish range. Know that yet. Marius, in the meantime, can't cast his Wisdom. He's a 3-faction deck with a lot of hard influence requirements to hit, and it's reeling its ugly head here.
Yeah, and let's see what Marius goes ahead and picks up. He likes to get a Rune Hammer. That makes a lot of sense. You know, he's going to be able to take care of the Seraph, and that's really going to be Tatsumaki's only threat for another 3 or 4 turns. It's unlikely Mystic Ascendant will get played before turn 7, so...
Tatsumaki might opt to get all these Seeks and other things out of hand, but no, goes with the Seraph play, gets the Obelisk out of hand, just a card that's hard to set up, and probably not surprised to see the Auric Runehammer be the rise target here. And now Marius is on the beatdown plan. Got a 2-3 and a 6-1 hammer, and banish off the top. Will cleanly answer one of those. Tatsumaki has to decide which.
Yeah, and that's a hard decision to make. Like, you need to get rid of Kothon. He is very scary, and he will produce the 4/4 Owl at some point. But that hammer in the meantime, since he doesn't have a way to answer it for at least 1 or 2 turns, and it would involve him throwing away a Mystic Ascendant, that's got to be the choice. But that leaves a Kothon in play, and that doesn't feel fantastic.
Right, but you also have to keep in mind, Tatsumaki probably noticed that Marius missed his 5th power, so the Kothon ultimate is something you could kind of just put away for later. Of course, Marius immediately finds a 5th power, and it's a 2nd primal source, so he does get to cast his Wisdom at some point, but opts to get the 3/3 flyer down and continue the pressure while his opponent's doing nothing. Mokto showing up here, though, is going to at least take up some space in the sky until Vanquish comes.
Yeah, Vanquish will take care of Mokto, but of course, you know, it still does get in the way, and who knows, we might find it on top of the deck here.
Yep.
So we'll see. Revenge obviously putting it in the top 10 cards, so could be anywhere in the meantime, although Tatsumaki might not have that many turns to find it. That's the issue for him right now.
Yeah, Mystic Ascendant gums up the ground, but this Kothon can just take to the skies. So I imagine that's what Marius is going to opt to do here. 5 in the air, presenting lethal in the air next turn. That's 9 damage. Banish is a good draw here, though. And I think Tatsumaki can draw a card here. If he hits the Revenge card, that's insane because he has Stand Together up already. Doesn't get Mokto, but still has Banish and Stand Together and a 10/10 attacking. This is going to be a close one.
Yeah, and we already saw, how many draws was that out of Tatsumaki? 2 or 3? So we only have a few more to go until that Mokto is guaranteed. And in the meantime, though, I mean, this isn't great. Like, he's down
to
lethal
here.
4.
If you're Marius, you kind of have to Harsh Rule here because if Tatsumaki has a power, you have Kothon to chump block. So I guess that's your plan here. He's going to Wisdom first, see a pause, find Torch, but he's 1 off of Torch lethal.
Oh, he can't use the Torch, and he is going to put the Rune Hammer on himself, I guess for the 1 life. So he's ensuring himself against Stand Together, but of course the Mystic Ascendant's going to get naturally bigger anyway with the power that Tatsumaki's holding.
Yep, so Tatsumaki needs to hit a flyer here? Like, okay, Temple Scribe.
Well, what it comes down to is Marius has to make this block, and he's going to now.
All right, Tatsumaki's got to find the revenge card soon. He's trying to figure this out.
Oh man, yeah, he's so close though. Like there must be only 4 cards left, right?
I'm not sure why Tatsumaki opted to not draw another card off Temple Scribe there. If you hit removal spell, he wins. I just don't know why you don't play Temple Scribe before swinging there. I guess he was thinking he wanted to have Seraph and Stand Together up, but
I guess he doesn't have a remove. Well, no, he has Slay, so yeah, that
like if this Temple Scribe hits either Mocto or removal spell, you're in great shape. And instead he plays the Seraph instead, and that means Marius has lethal with this torch. I'm a little surprised he opted to slam the Seraph here. But yeah, he goes down. Marius gets the kill. Of course, Tatsumaki had no idea that his opponent had a torch.
Yeah, I see the one line of play that Tatsumaki's going around right now. So if he's hard committing the Seraph, he can't, in theory, play the Temple Scribe because he needs to leave power up for Stand Together so he doesn't get blown out by the Owl Swinging, then Harsh Rule, then the weapon. But that questions why you play Seraph in the first place instead of digging for Mocto.
Yeah, I just don't see how like Seraph is a better play than Temple Scribe there. The Temple Scribe is at least still a 3/3. It's gaining you life, which could matter. And again, you have a Mocto somewhere within the next 4 or 5 cards. I just think the upside is. I just didn't see the upside to playing Seraph there. And again, even if he played Temple Scribe, he might still have lost him. I'm not saying that was exactly the wrong play, but it was a bit of a confusing one. Doesn't look like the players are sideboarding anything at all here, so we're going to go to the next game. Marius is up 2-1 now, I believe. Is that where we're at?
Yes, Marius is in fact up 2-1, and this might be a hard-fought game for Tatsumaki. We'll see. Depends on how good his opener is, and that's a pretty reasonable opener from him.
Yeah, Desert Marshal, Mystic Ascendant, Power. Meanwhile, Marius finds a third power, but has no primal sources again. This seems to be a recurring theme, at least getting stuck on single primal. Here, he doesn't even have that. So Marius is just praying to draw a primal source and instead draws Trailblaze, which is a good card, would help you dig for things, but not when you can't cast it.
Yeah, it'll help him get primal sources once he has a primal source established. But in the meantime, he needs to find one. And this allows Tatsumaki to just continue to set up. And Marius does find a Rise to the Challenge, which is not the worst pickup here, since at least it's castable on his influence, assuming that he finds another power. But he really needs those primal influence soon. And there's a Kothon. That hurts.
Going 3 faction is tough. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Of course, it works out for Tatsumaki because Secret Pages and Seek Power is a lot of great fixing. Marius finally finds the primal source and opts to take the pressure off by going Vanquish here rather than Trailblaze. You could have considered Trailblazing to try and find an undepleted power and just plan on Harsh Ruling the next turn, but he opted to go with the conservative route and get the Vanquish out.
All right, so we got Mocto in the top 9 cards now. We just saw one picked off the top.
Mm-hmm.
Try and keep a counter of that this time around. We'll see how bad the Mocto luck is here.
That Wisdom will get bottomed. Vanquish is the draw once the Wisdom goes away. So Vanquish into Vanquish here for Tatsumaki. Keeping the board cleared for now. But this Mystic Ascent is going to present another must-answer threat. And one that you really do need to kill right away, unlike the other ones.
Yeah, we'll see what the Trailblaze hits for Marius. He does find a Seat of Glory, which he's going to put on top and draw it. That way he at least can at least hit his 5 for Harsh Roll on the next turn if he needs it. Although that's questionable now since he dropped the Kothon on the board, unless he feels like he really just needs to soak the hit for this turn.
Yeah, he drops Kothon, and it ends up being a nice play. It keeps this Desert Marshal at bay. Wow, Parliament 2. It'll be interesting to see how much Tatsumaki actually commits to this board, though. He could play the Parliament and force his opponent to have it, but your opponent's been stuck on 4 for a while. But yeah, he's going to opt with the line, make his opponent have the Harsh Rule, and Marius is going to be like, okay, I have Harsh Rule. There we go.
Yeah, I think that's a little questionable out of Tatsumaki there. I think if anything, you play the Combri Healer, and that itself should be enough on the board, given what Marius is working with. That should force a commitment, and that way you can still save the Parliament. So Parliament's a very strong card in this matchup.
So Various continues to try and just hold on here. Double torches the Sandstorm Titan to get that out of the way. Plays down the Enforcer so they can actually block this 2/5. Marius doesn't need to be that desperate to answer all of these things. He is still at 25 health. He still needs to find double primal, though, and then eventually triple primal for M&N. We'll see if that happens anytime soon. In the meantime, more owls show up. And, these are owls. Marius has another problem that he has to answer, and Dark Combre is doing its thing where it just draws threat after threat after threat. Also, Mokto's still on the way at some point.
Yeah, Mokto should be, I think I miscounted at some point, but I think he's in the top 6 cards now, maybe 5.
He's the top card. What are you talking about? I summoned it.
Speaking of summoning Mokto, here we go. Yeah. And here comes the real beatdown here. I mean, Tatsumaki can even elect to throw the... he can drop the Temple Scribe down. He can cycle a card. This is all good. Now he's got a Seraph. Now he can just hold the Seraph for the next time he's going to need it. And he's going to be pushing a ton of damage every turn in the meantime. It's
notable Marius, in an attempt to defend his health, played that the Valkyrie Enforcer before Mokto returned. So now Mokto still has revenge. And with this, Desert Marshal is still going to live through this hammer as Desert Marshal takes the bullet.
Yeah, Desert Marshal eating the hammer with its ambush effect. And now Mokto is still on the board and just a ton of damage getting pushed through here. This is going to come down to a single draw for Marius, and I don't think there's a way out for him at this point. Well, he does buy himself one more turn.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that's enough.
Stand Together makes it lethal. Stand Together is lethal here if Tatsumaki just A-spaces and casts Stand Together, and I imagine we're going to see that. Tatsumaki goes for lethal.
Does for a quick count on the math real quick to make sure that he's not making any foolish plays. Realizes that is in fact lethal, throws a Stand Together, and he's going to clean that one up. So that brings the series tied to 2-2 apiece. We are going to be going to a deciding Game 5.
Yeah. We're going to Game 5. Always a fun one to go the full distance here. Some big high impact spells on both ends. Marius almost got out of that influence trouble there, but it was just too much pressure. Mokto got his revenge. And this is it. Who gets to go on to the semifinals? Well, it's whoever wins this game here.
Yeah, and we'll see. This is a very interesting hand out of Tatsumaki. I have a feeling we're going to see this one get shipped back. Though he does have the Seek Power and the Find the Way, actually. Yeah,
in a 3-faction greedy deck, I think you're okay with this hand if you're Tatsumaki. You're just guaranteeing to do stuff, but he's going to try and find a more aggressive hand, and about the same, at least as a Desert Marshal. The Slays are kind of a downgrade. In the meantime, Marius is kind of the same old story here. Mulligan into a 2-power hand, and he just needs a lot of it. Molan and Nakova hanging out in hand and just never getting casted anytime soon.
Yeah, this is going to be really rough for him. Although he does pick up his 3rd power, and it was his primal influence he was looking for, I believe.
Yeah. So now Marius is just hoping to find either more power or like Wisdom of the Elders, something like that. Just keep the resources flowing, find something to do, try and get to this harsh roll, and then turn it around from there.
Yeah, Tatsumaki can establish 5 power on board, though, and create a 6-turn clock, essentially. And, 6 turns can be a long time, but when your opponent is stuck on 3 power and their only good 3-power cards aren't actually playable, either due to the effect not actually doing anything or, lacking influence requirement in Valkyrie Enforcer, you can get pretty aggressive here. And he's got double slays to back it up. So even if the Valkyrie Enforcer comes down as it's going to, he can even slay if he wants to just push this out of the way and continue his onslaught.
Yeah, Tatsumaki opted to make that Seraph a 3/7, get it out of hammer range. It does mean that the Combre healer is in torch range, but I think protecting the Seraph is more important, except now Seraph is dead, but still getting one unit out that's hard to kill with via weapons is a good plan. And Tatsumaki finds even more power. Secret Page is kind of being the MVP of this matchup so far. I think Marius would be very happy if he had a card like that just drew him 2 power of his choice whenever he wanted.
Yeah, it's one of the downsides of not playing time is you don't get to play Find the Way, so
Ooh.
don't get as much. And we will see Tatsumaki go ahead and drop the Martial Ironthorn to get 2 more power. I mean, Marius has the harsh rule here, and Tatsumaki's completely powered down. Yeah, he's going to burn this here. Tatsumaki looking for power off the top of his deck. That way he can commit the Mystic Ascendant and start his card draw engine.
Yep, both players looking for power, but if Tatsumaki doesn't get power, it means he's getting action. Stand Together's a little awkward here, though, but will be a useful tool as we move forward.
Yeah, not the action he was really looking for. That's more of a defensive tool. He would have liked that a few turns ago.
He's still going to slam the Ascendant. Can't hold up Stand Together here, but gets to hold up Desert Marshal and another Desert.
Yeah, and Desert Marshal's fine. And Marius does have the Vanquish, and this is going to allow the Throne Warden to start attacking again. So all of a sudden, Marius is going to slowly start becoming the beatdown deck here.
Tatsumaki can turn this a bit here by Desert Marshal end of turn, pop the Aegis, use Slay on this 4/4, and, turn around a bit. Marius might torch this Desert Marshal, but at 20 life, I think he might be okay with it. Instead, looks like he's going to opt to hold up Island's Choice and hopefully counter like a Great Parliament, I think is what Marius is worried about right now.
Yeah, and he is starting to put Marius has started to stabilize, though, and that's like the important thing to note is when you look at Tatsumaki's hand, there's not a ton of action going on, and Marius does have a lot of action in his hand. I mean, he's got plenty of threats he can come up with. We're going to see another Desert Marshal coming down, which is probably going to lead to another Slay. But Marius has the Starsteel Die Show as soon as he finds a 6 power to go ahead and take care of the 2 threats on the board.
I don't know if he'll use Daisho here. The Daisho still has armor? Yeah, okay, that's a no-brainer. He still has 2 armor left over from the Throne Wardens. If Tatsumaki, though, uses Stand Together, that means the Daisho does fully trade, but you got to Stand Together out of your opponent. So that's still a huge win.
Yeah, you're still essentially trading 1 card for 3 there, so that ends up working out pretty well. Find the Way off the top for Tatsumaki. So Marius is pretty sure at this point that Tatsumaki's playing on completely air, and this is going to give him an opening to just start going in.
Yep. Get down the Far Watcher, have Island's Choice up, which can deal with a couple of bomb spells and stuff like that. And backed up by some torches, he can get some damage in here, and if the board stays clear, he might even get the trigger Molat and Nakova, but for now, activating Kothon, take to the skies, get that extra 4/4 flyer. And Marius is in the driver's seat, but Tatsumaki on 11 power draws that Seraph, and we'll get at least 1 activation out of it before Marius can do anything.
Ooh, not the worst activation. It's not the best either, but it's at least a 12/12, so this is going to be a pretty reasonable threat here.
Yeah, I think the best hit possible for Seraph there was like another Seraph. But Marius is like, all right, I'm just going to harsh rule here. He could have, hammered and held up Island's Choice. That was another option, but he decided to just hit in the sky and go from there. It'll be interesting to see if he just drops the 8/8. Yeah, Molan Nakovo Spark, not exactly high value in this matchup. So just getting the 8/8. And
it's also lethal here. Jeez, with the double torches in hand, this is going to present lethal. And that is going to close the series out. Marius is going to take this one down 3-2 in a very, very close set between him and Tatsumaki.
That was a fun matchup. Just haymakers all over the place. Marius in those sketchy influence spots, but the overall power level of his cards ended up more than making up for it. Tatsumaki flooding a little there, but when you play Secret Pages, that's a risk you run. There we go. Congrats to Marius. He will move on to the semifinals. And we've got another match to cover here, it looks like.
We do have another match indeed, and it looks like the players are actually 1-1 in this matchup. This is going to be Tobu up against Popicidus, and I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch what that was. We're going to have a Argenport up against a Rakano plate deck, and unless I'm mistaken, this is the Rakano plate that is 100% unchanged.
A lot of decks, especially the 3 faction ones, got new toys. Rakano, not so much. It's not like we got new Warcry cards or anything like that. we're getting word that this game is a 1-1 right now. They haven't even sideboarded yet. Sometimes when you get this like mid-range aggro matchup, it actually ends up slowing the game down because both players don't want to die. So they end up playing a bit more defensively because neither one knows who the beatdown is. And maybe that's what occurred in these first two games.
Yeah, sometimes also both decks end up trading back and forth so much that you just run out of gas and you end up in the top deck mode where you're just trading one minor threat for another minor threat back and forth.
Yeah, as slow as these control decks can be when you're playing things like 8/8 flyers on 8, the games actually end pretty quickly when they are going to end. So it's one of the cool things about Eternal is like the control decks can go slow, but when they finish quick. Anyways, let's check out the action that's actually happening here. Tobu played a 5/5 flyer, and his opponent is attacking in with a 1/3.
Yeah, he is attacking in with the 1/3. That should signal some sort of combat trick there.
Not a combat trick, though, unless it's double Finest Hour.
Yeah, or Finest Hour Torch. Yeah, it's really hard to say what that would have been in that situation.
Yeah, but he opts to just take the 1 damage. It's only 1 damage. It's not a war cry he's giving up. He's going to play another 5/5 flyer and keep the beats coming.
Yeah, he'll be able to, if he needs to block now, he can afford to block with Mokto, since Mokto will just be returned to the deck. So he's not a huge loss if he loses Mokto for 2 combat tricks.
Yeah, and now Publicitus decides to hang back. This has to give you a read of like that double Finest Hour that we were thinking of. This 1/1 flyer wants to maybe block and gain some life and buy some time. So Tabu's got to decide, does he want to slam a Gem Blade on one of his flyers or get more on the board via playing Valkyrie Enforcer and Archimport Instigator?
I think Gem Blade on Impending Doom is fine and attacking with both units here. If your opponent absolutely does have... this is fine too, yeah.
Yeah, go wide.
Yeah, and this doesn't get punished by... This still doesn't get punished by double combat tricks outside of what it was already going to cost you. If it's triple combat tricks, this is actually pretty nasty. But, you are trading 3 cards for 3 cards at that point. So it's kind of a wash, albeit, Tobu is much lower in hand with only 2 cards here versus Publicitus's 6.
Yeah, and it is an odd spot to be in where your opponent did nothing on 3. So you could just be like, all right, if you're going to keep doing nothing, I'm going to advance my board by playing 2 threats. But Tobu also, at the same time, wants to just get really aggressive and does so. And all Publicitus has is 1 Finest Hour there. Nothing else. It wasn't even so that attack before with the 1/3 was just like a straight up pretty wild bluff by Publicitus. I like it. I like it a lot.
Actually, I think it's very possible Publicitus did have double combat tricks. I think he chooses to block in the way he did since he was trading 5 damage off anyway, and he got to save himself a card by just trading into the 5/4 on the ground.
Sure, and hope that eventually you can just put a weapon on this bird, and that's fine too. These 2 5/5s continue to come in, though, which forces Publicitus to block again. And it's looking bad for him. I'm not sure how he's going to wiggle his way out of this one. Another basically lethal flyer comes out here in Valkyrie Enforcer. I would have thought about silencing the 1/3 instead, but by popping this Aegis, you get potentially better top decks if your opponent does put a weapon on this bird, which is probably one of the few ways Publicitus can actually come back in this matchup.
Yeah, definitely here. We're going to see what he can drop. I don't know of anything, though, that he's going to be able to come up with here on 4 power that's going to do it. Without some sort of crazy string of combat tricks, like double Finest Hour and a Torch, maybe.
Yeah, well, he gets in basically the free attack with the 3/3, and we'll see what Publicitus can do here. Shogun Scepter, that's going to lead to a scoop, I guess. And Slay will lead to a super scoop. I guess if he has a combat trick or something, maybe, but this Slay is going to shut any window that he had to win that game.
Yeah, he is going to close it out right there. So that's going to take us to 2-1 in Tobu's favor. We're going to be entering a game 4 in just a second. Since that was the 3rd game, players had already sideboarded. So that was post sideboard. So we'll see if they want to re-sideboard or if they're going to jump straight back into it.
I imagine both players are ready. This is just kind of this aggro matchup. Yeah, the challenge is out. Oh, and gets rejected. All right, so Papicidus is doing some tweaking here. I didn't really get a look at his hand, so I don't know what was stranded in their hand. Maybe they wanted to change up their plan after seeing that first post sideboard game. But we should be getting back in the action quickly. Yeah, with Tobo, I imagine you just brought in the extra suffocate and annihilate, and maybe just bring in more removal. The key against Rakano is to kill their units early and often, and just let your standalone threats do their job without backup. And when you are on Rakano, I don't know, you bring in the extra protect probably, go up to 3 against this much spot removal, and just try and build the biggest unit on the board possible and go the distance with that.
Yeah, it's generally a pretty solid game plan for Rakano to do exactly as you said, just suit up one unit, preferably a Silver Ring Familiar since they have so much evasion, and just have them go in and do all the work for you.
Yeah, I will note Rakano has one card from Moments of the Past in their 9-card deck, and that is one Spirit Guide. I don't think it came in this matchup, but it's possible. The rest of it is all from the or the Empty Throne set 1. Sticking to what you know.
Yeah, interesting card, Spirit Guide. Curious to see what matchups they bring that in for. Maybe like the Rakano Mirror, I suppose, and the Skycrag aggro.
Yeah, just a 3/3 lifesteal and added utility to that. Tobo with the turn 1 sabotage whiffs. Visitus has no weapons in hand. It is only units and power. No spells, no weapons. Very rarely will you see that turn 1 sabotage whiff. And every time it does, your opponent immediately draws a weapon after. That is rough. That's a rough start.
That is a very rough start, and Tobu's going to have to find power as well here. I mean, he's got his entire hand is castable, fortunately, on his power, but it's not where you want to be. He would like to get to the point where he can cast 2 of these threats per turn. He does pick up Seat, which is fine. He doesn't necessarily need an undepleted power here. Just any power will work.
And I imagine he's going to drop the second Vigilante and just try and get these things to spiral. Sometimes it's correct to remove your opponent's first unit right away, but he's going to instead try to race with this hand, build up his Vigilante so they can apply pressure and use Annihilate on the first unit that's actually too big for them to attack into.
Oh, and here comes the silence out of the Valkyrie Enforcer, shutting down the Vigilante right there.
Mm-hmm.
And
so this might prompt the Annihilate so you can start getting this other Vigilante going and get in with the other one. But annihilating a unit in Rakano when it doesn't have a weapon on it and you have no other removal spells in hand is sketchy. Again, you did sabotage your opponent a few turns ago and saw no weapons, but they're going to draw one soon. But this is a really tough spot for Tobo to beat.
Yeah, this is a tough spot as well, and I'm curious to see if he's going to use the Monument here, and he does elect to drop the Monument. That way he can at least establish 2 threats on the next turn.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious to see if he was actually going to take that line of play, though. There is some line of play that says, wait it out on the Gem Blade for additional value, but he might just feel he's under too much pressure right now to hold back.
Yeah, he just wants to curve out, and man, those War Cries at least one of them hit a Champion of Glory, and that's going to gum up the ground permanently now. Nothing's going to swing into that on Tobu's side. Annihilate can't hit it. So Tobu's going to drop the Tinker Overseer, draw another power, and hold on to this Annihilate and hope a weapon goes on one of these flyers, and you can.
Yeah, speaking of curving out, Papicidus is curved out perfectly here in the later turns of the game, and now that board is just so jammed up, Tobu's going to be struggling to find a way through. The 4/4 Champion of Glory is just such a strong unit on his side. I mean, Tobu actually can kill it, but in order to kill it, no, actually he can't, I don't think. Yeah, even if he quad blocks, Champion of Glory would be able to take down the 2/1 and the 3/3 first, so he would still only take 3 damage.
Or it could take out the 2/1, the 1/1, and the 2/2. There's a lot of ways that blows up in your face. So instead, he puts a Gem Blade. One of his power transmuted itself into a weapon. puts it on the Champion of Glory and attacks in.
Yeah, and we are going to see the Annihilate come out, the Tinker Overseer's trade. We're going to see the Vigilante get killed off. But this is not a fantastic position for Tobu here. And he finds a Sabotage, and that's definitely at least one turn late.
You cast it here, but it whiffs again, and that's going to be the story of this game. Sabotage whiffing twice against Rakano. It can be a powerful card, but man, when it misses, it hurts. We're seeing that here.
Really does hurt. And Tobu already down to 11. Another Rakano Outlaw coming down, and another Champion of Glory. This one unbuffed, but still very scary. And for Tobu, unfortunately, he's just has still yet to find a way he can take this down. He's looking for that Slay. It's going to be what gets him home.
Tobu needs a Slay or a Vanquish. In the meantime, I think this 2-1 will get a chump in here. Going to 3. All right. With an impending do. Yeah, that's Torch Range, and also just any of their units are lethal next turn because, again, you've got an impending do that's about to do another damage for you. And yeah, Publicitus drew nothing but units that game, except for the one power that transmuted into a weapon, and got the job done there against Tobu. So, yet again, going to a Game 5. This seems to be the theme of the top 8 so far.
Yeah, we're going to have another decider right here, and it's hard to say who's going to win. Let's see who's on the play. I mean, being on the play in this matchup really is a huge determining factor.
Yeah, that'll be a big part of this, especially if Publicitus is on the play and that's the turn 1 Oni Ronin. That's the real huge thing. But yeah, with Tobu having those Argenport Vigilantes that want to get rolling and stuff, it's also important that he's on the play. Looks like Tobu does get the play and has a pretty nice hand here.
Yeah, this is pretty reasonable. We'll see if he goes for the turn 1 Sabotage, not getting baited into it this time around. Instead, going to inspire a Makto. So now he's got a 6/6 Makto. Yeah. That's pretty solid. I mean, if he can get to 5, he's at least got solid units this game that he can hopefully deal with some of Publicitus' threats.
Yeah, like Tobu normally doesn't want to turn 1 Sabotage. He just did the last game because he had nothing else to do. He had 2 power and nothing but 2 drops, so he just knew he wanted to get the Sabotage out of hand. This game, it made more sense to inspire, see what else you have to do. Maybe you Sabotage here because you know you're going to be Valken forcing the next turn. You have lots of removal. So he opts to do that, and boy, he's got a lot of choices this time around. Double Oathbook, Vanquish, Deep Forge Plate.
Whew. These are some pretty tough choices to make here. So this is 4 of his 7 cards. It's likely he has 1 or 2 more powers, so he's only got 1 unit in the hand, very likely.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to decide what you want to take, though. Like, I feel like you almost have to take the plate, right?
It's like plate or vanquish. I think if your opponent has all these clunky weapons and buffs, and you're looking at an Enforcer and Makto in hand, I think your plan here is to hopefully draw a few more threats and just back them up with the removal before say this Tinker Overseer that we just saw ever gets buffed at all. Now Tobu, if he wants his Diploseal to be a shadow source, has to play it here. It means he can't Valkyrie Enforce and instead has to use Suffocate. But
I think that's actually the right line here, interestingly enough, because the based on the hand composition, as we talked about, it's very likely the Tinker Overseer is one of, if not the only unit Publicitus is actually holding at the time. And if not, it's something like this this Champion of Glory, which, albeit scary, is much easier to deal with when it's a 1/1, because the Paladin Oathbook doesn't allow it to swing into the Valkyrie Enforcer on the following turn.
Yeah, double Oathbook here will turn it into a 3/3, and then Tobu, if he wants to, can just trade with it. Not sure if he'll opt to do that, though. And Publicitus might not offer the trade either, especially if this is his only unit and has a Deep Forge Plate in hand. And he opts to wait on that and not offer this trade. I think.
He's going for the Deep Forge Plate, but that's going to require him to have a Protect as well. Like, if he goes all in on the Deep Forge Plate next turn, I don't think Publicitus wins this game. Tobu looks like he's going to scale out of control now.
Yeah, but a lot of times with Rakano, you just kind of have to play the hand you're dealt. If you only have 2 units and you have to put Deep Forge Plate on one of them, that's what you have to do. Of course, here, that's not what happens. Finds a 3rd unit and also vanquishes Impending Doom. And Tobu, missing power, can't get this Makto in play, but has Finest Hour. But now he's got to is gonna want to save this Vanquish for whatever gets Deep Forge Plate, but in the meantime, the other unit with Oathbook might just spiral out of control.
Yeah, and I have to say, I feel like swinging with the Valkyrie Enforcer there is actually a mistake. I feel like if you hold Valkyrie Enforcer and use the Finest Hour to make a trade, you're forcing Pupicitus into playing the plate on the other unit, which you can then just vanquish, and now you're staring at a clear board.
Yeah, I agree there. Because now either unit that Pupicitus swings with, because of the double Oathbook, Finest Hour doesn't kill it on this Orc Vigilante, where the other way around, you had a 3/3 that became a 6/6, and you get to turn Finest Hour into removal. So now that's like, this Finest Hour is kind of not doing anything in the meantime, especially if you ever draw a power. But Tobu's going to try and be the beatdown here, and I don't know if he can be. But he's chose his path and is hitting the A space.
I don't think he can raise double Oathbook here. I think he's going to have to commit the Vanquish. And, if Pupicitus rips a power to play this plate next turn, one of the units is going to be like a 9/9.
I don't think he has to commit the Vanquish yet because these Auric Vigilantes are chump blockers in the meantime. They're not once the Oathbook comes down. So it's a tough spot or not the Oathbook, but the plate.
That's certainly true. I'm definitely feeling like the A space is coming out of Pupicitus next turn. Like, I feel like the two Oathbook triggers, while they are very valuable, I feel like the extra 4 to 7 damage you're going to be missing isn't worth it.
Well, Tobu might get a unit out of this deal here by attacking. Yeah, Pupicitus respects the aggression coming out of Tobu. Tobu's got to decide now if he wants to use this Finest Hour to keep this Orc Vigilante rolling.
You have to pay with this Finest Hour.
Yeah, I think I agree. But he opts to just go with the trade. And
maybe having it back in the deck is better in some sense. Maybe being able to trigger the revenge. It's kind of questionable there, honestly, but we'll
thought
see
just might be that Pupicitus could switch to not swinging with his Rakano or Champion of Glory, and then your Auric Vigilante is a dead card anyway, so why keep it alive? Like, Finest Hour might just end up being more valuable in the long run.
Yeah, that's fair. We see another Champion of Glory coming down. Tobu's going to have to find something very soon. He does find his 5th power, so here's Mokto.
Yep, Mokto can come down. Tobu's got to decide if he wants to keep attacking with this 3/3 or hold it back to potentially help with a double block in his. No, I mean the big champion swings for 9. The smaller ones could also be a problem. I think you have to take a turn off the aggression. You're just not presenting a fast enough clock with Pupicitus at 16 and you also at 16.
Yeah, I think you have to take a turn off right here, and you're going to have to play the racing game at some point. So what you're looking for here, I think, is to pass the turn. No, he wants to get aggressive. Okay.
Is there a way Cabo can get lethal next turn? Yeah, another Finest Hour is lethal or like any other kind of buff effect. So I think that's what Tabu's looking at there. By swinging for 3, he's got 9 in the air. Finest Hour brings it to 12. He just needs 1 more damage from something to get lethal. So
that's fair. And if he can pick up another removal, he can put himself in a reasonable position here to where he shouldn't die immediately. Although, that being said, if Pupicitus ever picks up the other card for this plate and the removal's been played out by Tobu, he should be able to get lethal here because the 7/7 should be coming in this turn and it'll hit as a 9/9. So he's only going to be lacking 7. Ooh, that's a bad telegraph too.
This is 10 damage coming through.
And with the 3/3 swing, that pretty much guarantees Pupicitus has either the torch or the Finest Hour to go with it.
So if you block the 3/3 with your 6/6,
you're never winning.
And then you have to use Finest Hour, and then you vanquish the 7/7. Your opponent still has the plate with stuff. This is a tough spot.
Use the Finest Hour though, so.
Oh, he's tapped out. Yeah, this is I don't think I block here.
Yeah, you can't block here, absolutely. I think you have to take the line that we were talking about Tobu setting up where he has to draw into another Finest Hour to win, or, 1 more point of damage somewhere.
Yeah, but now he's going to be so low. Yeah, plate's going to be lethal next turn if it ever shows up. Argenport Banner not giving him lethal. And
so, I mean, he still has ways to win this game. Like, he vanquishes the 7/7, he swings with Mokto, and he passes. And that sets up the 1 turn either way.
Swing with Mocto? Yeah, I think you have to, right?
Yeah, you have to swing with Mocto. Well,
and then
yeah,
you have to block the
Mocto and you
three.
just chump.
You have to block whatever, and hope your opponent can't play here. Plate's lethal. You can't think about that. You just have to hope it doesn't happen. You have to hope they draw another unit or something.
Oh, and there's
the plate. Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
plate's not actually lethal though. Finest Hour will stop plate from being lethal, and that gives you one more out. You're drawing towards one more out.
Because it's 9. Yeah, it swings for 10. So yeah, you have to Finest Hour, and then you have to hope to find 1 extra damage. So yeah, block Finest Hour keeps you alive. And you've got to hope to draw a Finest Hour or a Gem Blade or some other weapon. But Tobu's got a shot here, just not much of one.
Oh, and he finds an Annihilate. That's not going to do it here.
Nope. So that is going to do it. Yep, gets the concession out of Tobu.
To 1. So close there out of Tobu right at the end. And it might have just come down to that earlier turn, swinging with the Valkyrie. It's hard to say, honestly, but it was a very close series either way.
I like the strategy Tobu got there. He recognized that double Oath Book and a plate was just going to be hard for him to beat in the long game, so he tried to shorten it by being aggressive as possible. The draw just didn't quite work out. The Mocto was stranded in hand for too long. The Argenport Vigilantes didn't quite get the pressure he wanted to get down.
Yeah, so sad to see Tobu unfortunately drop out there after an almost perfect run. It was a very nice set out of him, though.
Mm-hmm.
He did play well. And he did bring the Argenport mid-range deck that I think people have been looking for, and it definitely had a very nice showing here. So,
yep, had a good run, and I'm sure we'll see more of it in the future. So I think that is it for the top 8. We get to move on to the semifinals. Our top 4 has now been, they're now in the top 4. The matches are done. We are moving on. So we've got Pupicidus and Marius still in the top 4. We saw those matches. And on the other side of the bracket, Bill Murray with his Elysian mid-range is still alive. And KCN Ibrev, I'll never know how to pronounce that name.
I'm going to go with Casey Nebrev.
Casey Nebrev. All right, let's go with that. Also still alive with Praxis midrange.
Yeah, and that's going to be our feature match for the next round. Is going to be Bill Murray on that Elysian mid-range deck going up against Casey Nebrev, who's playing Praxis mid-range. So it should be a mid-range mirror. Going to be a lot of fun. We're going to take a short break, folks, though, so do not go anywhere. We will be back in just a few moments with coverage of your semifinals matches.